This week's update made possible in part by Family Cafe. I think we're going to be competing with the chainsaws today. They're cleaning up the leftovers from the storm.
Yeah. It's amazing how they're still working a week later.
Oh, I know it. Well, it's like a month's worth of work out there. Yeah.
Still
pretty crazy.
Still have the chainsaws going.
We are live-ish.
Yep, live on tape.
And we have an exciting sponsor today, and it is Vodder Mercantile.
Yeah.
And they're on Main Street. And I guess they've owned that building for a while, and now they've just opened up the retail part of this thing. And
yeah, the sign had it established way back in the early 20s, I believe, is the original.
Well, the deal is Carl's grandfather started a mercantile in 1920 in Lovell, Oklahoma.
Okay.
That's hardly in existence anymore. I think there's just some houses there now. Main Street's gone. And it was there from 1920 to 1945, and Carl has always had a dream of having his own mercantile, like his grandfather did. So they've taken that building they own and have redone the whole front of it into this really cool little store, and everything's like handmade, made in Oklahoma, made locally.
Very fresh.
Yeah, very cool. And one of their products, this is like crazy good stuff. They have their own line of Vodder Mercantile spices. And Lacey was telling me that they're going to start with about 40 spices, and they could have up to almost 200 at some point. And this stuff smells absolutely amazing. I'm not like a spice guy, but I know when something's fresh and smells really, really good.
Right.
And you were saying that you probably don't need quite as much of it because it's so...
The way it's fresh and all as it smells, I bet it doesn't take a lot.
This is great. This one here is dry roasted garlic, and I just want to eat it with a spoon. It's like, wow,
it smells good, doesn't it?
That is really, really cool. Then the other stuff that they're going to offer is Carl is sort of a builder of all things, if you know Carl. He's built houses and buildings, and the thing that I guess he really enjoys doing is building furniture. And he has
very nice.
He has this thing, I don't know if you've heard of this, where say you have a 100-year-old tree in your yard and it might have gotten damaged or something. He'll come in and harvest the tree, make a piece of heirloom furniture, and then you have something from your tree you've grown. So Carl builds...
That is really neat.
Carl builds all kinds of things out of wood. He builds a lot of signs and things like that. Like the sign on the front of their building is one of his. And
that's a really nice sign.
It
is.
is.
He did a nice job with that.
It is. He's got a sawmill.
It kind of grabs your attention as you're.
Well, it does. It's different. It's just not like a plastic sign. Yeah. Then the other thing that they're going to offer, other than gifts and small clothing line, and of course their spices, is Carl's a furniture maker and has some amazing slab furniture. Oh, yeah. And he has some finished pieces, and then you can buy just slabs of wood to make whatever you want out of them. And I understand. I didn't check. So Carl, if I messed this up, I'm sorry, but he has a sawmill. So if you've got a big tree that you want made into lumber or something like that, he can do that for you. So that's pretty. That's pretty cool. And then in the back of the building, of course, is the learning lab that's been there for quite a while now, and that's Lacey's thing. She does occupational therapy, dyslexia, am I saying that right?
Yes.
Dyslexia training, and multi-sensory tutoring for all ages. So that's kind of really specialty thing. If you have a child or an adult that needs help with any of those things, you can get that right here in Hennessey.
Right here in Hennessey.
It's pretty cool. So they're going to have on the counter in the store, they're going to have a jar, and it's a donation jar. And every month they'll take that money and they'll donate that to a special need or a special cause or something like that.
So to CAT or like to Hennessey United.
Whoever's doing something that needs
Lions
help.
Club, whatever the...
Absolutely. And then they're also going to, some months they will donate, I'm sure after they get going a little bit, they're going to donate parts of their profits to the same kind of thing. So it's kind of a really cool give back thing. Yeah. That's pretty neat. So their grand opening is Saturday, November 14th, and they're going to have all kinds of prizes and drawings and and really good smelling spices. You got to go check out these spices. These
Worth
things
the
are
trip
just
in there just to smell the.
absolutely amazing.
They probably don't want you cracking them open and sticking your nose in them though. Like
Probably
we were doing
not,
earlier.
but you can imagine just the name, dry roasted garlic. Ooh, what that smells like. Yeah, very, very cool. Check them out. Vada Mercantile on Main Street. It's right across from Prairie Quilt.
Yep.
So check them out and hang around till we're done because George, I'm not going to say it
Philanthropic.
right. So what's George's last name?
Huizar.
Huizar, the Ag and FFA teacher, will be here right after we get done with Mike. What do you got going on, Mike? Oh,
Philanthropic. That's what the thing I was trying to think of there at the last.
Yes.
They're being very philanthropic by.
yeah, that's kind of
Winning
cool.
money.
Returning back, paying forward, paying backwards. Yes.
We've tried to be very cognizant of that when we're doing stuff at the school. Just like we talked about last week about the slab being poured for the to move the dumpsters and the fence that's going up, and most everything we have done. If there's somebody here in town that does it, we do our best to include as many folks we can. I don't know about everybody, so I'm sure there's folks that I've missed, but we feel it's important to put that money because we had a lot of support when we built the dome, and again, and it's nice to do things like when we had last week had the vote. We were able to do it in the seminar room at school, and just a lot of activities. We're working to. Let's see. This is airing on the 11th.
I believe so.
11th or 12th? Okay, we'll have had the next board meeting by then, and we're at that board meeting we'll be discussing how to have the walking track available for patrons to
Oh,
walk
that's
and
important.
do the walk, start
Everyone's
walking, so.
asking me that about when's the
Yeah.
track going to be
There's
available. And
the school has a internship program, and one of the another thing we have to do is their individualized career plans. And I don't know if you don't know Jill Murray, she's just a gem. She works herself silly on that kind of stuff, but she already has a group of kids that have gone through and filled out paperwork and that would show an interest in something in the line of athletics, maybe being a trainer, maybe being a orthopedic surgeon, whatever it may be, but something tied with health. Maybe they just want to own a gym someday, and so we try to find that kiddo, and then they would be the person that stays and keeps the lights on and the doors open for the
it's kind of
dome.
an important building to just leave open.
Don't want to leave it just wide open.
Yeah.
Although the folks that came in here and worked on the facility, there were times when we had no option. We had lots of doorways and no doors, so there wasn't really much. We didn't have anything damaged, stolen, vandalized. None of that.
That's very, very cool. That says a lot for our community.
It does indeed, because there was a lot of very expensive material and equipment over there for it to not have any of it get damaged or taken. So
Very, very cool.
what
So-
were we just talking about?
I was,
Turning money back to the community and
Yes.
how philanthropic they were
Yep.
being. So very
and
good.
then you were just talking about the track, how you're going to,
Yep.
we're working to try to get the
Back
track
to the
open.
board. The board will have to approve employing a person to do that, and I wouldn't really guess be employment, but approve the internship.
Assigning that person.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We are working with our food service group. So again, I'm looking for positive, constructive. Don't just say, food's gross or best food I've ever eaten or anything
Be
like that.
specific.
Kind of like this is what's concerning me, or you can have comments that are complimentary in nature. They don't
have to be
necessarily
negative.
have
Yes.
to be conflictual. But again, we're working with our food service group. We wanted to set some plans. I did anyway, and I don't think the school, as a school, we had the mentality that we're going into the COVID as a life-changing way of doing business. It was just to get over the pandemic and then back to what we would term normal, which I'm not sure if there's any such thing, but so we're looking at how do we set some goals to move forward. When can we add maybe the salad bar back, or the things that more choices, different things like that, and so we're working with the food service group. If you have comments, if you have thoughts, again, constructive in nature, that help us move forward and get better. Jack always puts an email address at the bottom.
Yeah, keep in mind, putting those comments in Facebook, Dr. Woods doesn't see those.
Yeah.
You need to email him. So if you have some great ideas about how things should be, could be, want to be, need be, more cake, whatever, put them in an email. Email address is right here, and it's in the description of this video, and drop them a note.
Yep.
And
We'll
they'll
use that
take
to
that into consideration.
help guide us in our as we move forward. We will know about playoffs. We should know about playoffs time this is up and running, because football team played Saturday at noon. Coach Hicks was telling me if we win that game against Luther, that then we had a better shot at getting a home playoff game. By the time we get to this point, that'll be for the next week. But everybody's going to be in the playoffs this year because of the way they changed it due to the COVID. It's what we're playing for right now.
So everybody gets at least one game?
At least one game.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
What we're shooting for is to get it to be one home game.
Get a home game.
And so come out, and when we play Luther I guess they've already played Luther by the time they see this. But again, that will help us to maybe be ranked a little higher.
Very cool. Excuse the chainsaws. They're getting closer to the building.
Where's your chainsaw?
I put it out
Did you
there.
loan it to him?
No. I decided I needed to just hire that stuff out if I
Yeah.
wanted to keep my arms and legs.
Yes, absolutely. So this is moving towards the giving season.
Okay.
Mentioned this in the past.
Getting close.
Then it's also the time of year that people are looking for a way to maybe save on their taxes. And so one way that you can do something that will help you with your taxes is to contribute to a Teacher's Donors Choose project.
That's a neat program.
DonorsChoose.com. Just go on the web and then go and looking for Hennessey. And there's all sorts. If you like athletics, you can donate to softball, cross country, track, basketball, any of those sports. You can band has gotten a lot of stuff through that. The teachers have just
And
killed
this
the
is
bear
like
through
real
it.
money. They get like real cool stuff.
Stuff
And-
that they're for their classroom.
Yep.
And the advantage is that you can do it in places like Dick's Sporting Good will match. So
You were telling me about some baseball bats or
Coach
something.
Linsenmeyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got like a $35,000 bat or two, and that may be a little bto higher than what it actually was, but he got some very expensive bats. And when Dick's Sporting Goods kicked their half in, then our other contributors just had to pay, basically half price, and Coach Linsenmeyer gets the bats for free.
Wow.
Then
That's pretty
the
neat.
person that is submitting the project, they get a 25% stipend. So if they did a $1,000 bat and they got awarded the bat, then they would get $250 in a stipend in
Really?
their check. So it's kind of a way to recognize them. The school didn't have to spend any money. It all came in from donors, and it's not just the same folks who get hit up to buy stuff every time.
Yep.
So again, it works well. Plus, it's tax deductible. There is another grant program. This one we are familiar with works through the Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. Catalyst something is the name of the grant. If you have any interest in this, again, hit me with an email. But it's a tax credit, to where if you were to give money, like a single person can give $1,000, and if you do it just for 1 year, you get a 50% tax credit. So you'd get a $500 tax credit. If you committed to doing that for more than a year, it becomes a 75% tax credit. So if you gave $1,000 to the as a grant, then you would get a $750.
So how do
tax
they
credit.
give that to? Where does the?
So
How do you do
they
it?
need to contact me, because
Okay.
you have to go through an organization, and we work with Oklahoma Public School Resource Center, and they have a catalyst. I apologize, I didn't write it down.
You
I
need a
can't think of it.
nonprofit to run
Yes.
through. Okay.
Yeah, and it's just for certain things, scholarships, technology, some things like that. But if you're a couple, you just basically double that. They can give up to $2,000. But if you're a corporation or a business, you can actually give up to $100,000. And if you were to give $100,000 and you got a 75% tax credit, that's a pretty good chunk of change
Yeah, that's
as
a
a
lot.
credit, not a deduction, but as an actual credit.
Wow.
So if you have any interest in doing something for, that you need a tax deduction for, get a hold of me, and I'll get you set up with the company, and we will help take care of that.
Dr. Woods' email address is in the description of this
Right below.
video. Yep.
We're also, let's see, we'll be getting ready at this, and we'll talk about this more. No, this will be the week. HESF, the Hennessey Educational School Foundation, is giving out their annual grants to the teachers, and plus we have other gifts that have been given to the foundation that they then pass along to the school as well. So this is a pretty good year, a pretty good time of the year for the teachers because they get some really nice stuff again as a grant so for their classroom. And Joelaine Matusik is kind of in charge of that deal, and she does a great job. And I think there's an 8-member board that work with them. So Hennessey Education Foundation again would be a tax deductible type donation as well, I'm sure.
Very, very cool.
Okay.
All right. What's next?
Oh, we've been talking about COVID restrictions, kind of like back with the food service. We didn't go into this with the goal of making these modifications to our lifestyle permanent. So we are working together to where now as we move to December, what can we do to start lessening the restrictions?
Easing out a little bit.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it'd be very minimal stuff moving towards December. After December, we'll reevaluate kind of the bigger picture. But, we're looking at what could we do right now to, again, kind of take us back to a little more traditional way of functioning in
I know
school.
some of the colleges, Mariana that works for us is going to UCO, and they're getting out for Thanksgiving break and not coming back until mid-January. And so I know that's going to play into Hennessey to see kind of how that works when you're getting together with all the relatives and commingling and all this kind of stuff. That we're kind of see what that brings.
And I had one of the teachers, ask if we had considered maybe doing a similar thing, but after go to Thanksgiving and not come back until after we return from Christmas. And we've kicked that around, and the problem continues to be that our folks all work, and we've got kids that it's hard to get meals to them. As much as, again, I think we've learned from our experience 2 weeks ago with the ice storm, that's getting the curriculum to them is not as big a concern to me as who's watching them, where are they staying, who's making sure they eat, who's making sure they do their work. That's the hardest part for me to manage, and so it's a which do you choose? And again, I think it's a great idea, and I think the teacher was really insightful to kind of look and see, hey, that is a time when we're going to be amongst more folks than normally that would be from outside our community.
But in that respect, you've got some really good guidelines and checks and balances to know when you have a positive case, and with temperature and all the screening that you're doing. So hopefully it will be easier to quarantine half a dozen kids or people than to shut school down completely and lose all those days. Or
and there's we've all along looked at it as well. If we did close down, we would keep 5th grade and down in school and let 6th grade and up go home. And again, there's all sorts of things we're still looking at and trying to address. But I just appreciate the thought and the recognition that this could be an issue. And so what's some things we could do to? I can't remember the last time we've had a case of the coronavirus in the elementary, 5th grade and down. But
Wow.
I don't remember the last time we.
Now we're competing with airplanes and chainsaws.
Yeah, you're
Very
like
nice.
in a flight path.
If you know anybody advanced, tell them to knock it off. We're trying to work here.
Turn left.
All right.
Okay, we have a testing window. We monitor, and we talked a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago about how we monitor students' growth and how we're looking to reach mastery, but we also measure growth. That testing window for the NWEA test is December 1st to December 18th. Help your kiddos get a good night's rest. If they have concerns or whatever, help tell them, talk to the teacher or talk to Miss Buchanan. She's the person that does all the testing. So again, keep them pumped up and keep them ready to go and very positive about taking the testing, because that's how we measure what we're doing in the classroom is whether it's successful or not.
Okay.
One last thing is we have contacted we always had this in mind because we have the physical switch out already set in place by the dome. But we are having a company come out that will put us on a waiting list for a generator. So if we have another event and say the Red Cross or a Salvation Army or a National Guard or someone like that rolled in and said, where would we be best set up? Where would it be best to set up to house folks? We're going to have a generator in place that would just plug right in, you flip the switch, and the whole dome is lit up again.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, who else in town feeds 850 people twice a day? And so we've got those facilities, plus then we'd have the dome lit up where it'd be warm, and have the facilities for them to come
What they
in.
did is when they built the dome, Eagle Event Center, they put in a
Event
device in the back. It's this big box, big ominous looking gray box, and it's a switch where you just back an industrial sized generator up to it, hook it up, and bang, you're up and running.
Yep.
And I guess this is a new thing where you don't actually have to buy the generator. You have one like on standby or,
Right.
or on a waiting list or something. And
You have everything sized. They know who to talk to. They know everything, like Jose and Gary and myself and others would have the information they would need. So if whoever was available could tell them where it is. Because if you think about it, if you had a generator setting out there during the storm, the likelihood is it would be damaged as well.
Yeah.
So, or you'd have to build a bunker around it, and then you have to test it. You have to make sure it's running correctly. This
A lot
way,
of
it's all
maintenance.
it's all on the company that brings it out and sets it up and hooks us up.
if it dies, they come and replace it.
Yep,
And so
exactly.
Good.
And
So it's- that's
these
kind
are
of the trend.
large.
I didn't realize it, but that's kind of the trend with big commercial stuff.
Right.
Is instead of having a couple $100,000 generator sitting out there that never does anything, you have
Right.
the switch and
It's
they bring
the-
in one.
Just in time
Yep.
of model. You only need it when you need it,
Yep.
and you don't. The other 360 days a year, you don't care to have one around. So,
Very cool.
but we've got that set up to where again that will be done here as quickly as possible. So again, I don't think this is our last winter event.
Well, no,
I
this
think there will be more.
this one was pretty early. Yeah.
Yes, and so again, we're just trying to make sure the things. Again, another thing we learned by living through it. It was that was something that needed to be in place, and again, we realized that they hadn't hooked up the dryer back in the training room.
Really.
So there's a spot for it, but
Well, I
they
was wondering
didn't.
why it was always pulled away from the wall.
Yeah.
It just never wasn't
Never was
hooked
hooked
up.
up, but it is now.
Okay.
But it is now. And that's still.
We can go back and look at my
works.
pictures I took because we can see if the wiring's there.
Yeah, you could. Although it's hooked up and running, so
Okay, never mind.
never. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Okay.
I think that's it, Jack.
Well, very, very cool.
Can't wait for you to get George on.
Yep.
Does great
Don't
work.
run away. George is coming up, and he's going to talk all about his background. We'll find out who George is,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of the really, really cool things he's doing with the FFA and ag programs and things like that. And
They've got a shop that rivals any
I
shop.
just want to go play there.
Yeah,
Some
brakes
equipment
and benders, plasma cam.
Yep.
What's the paint stuff called? Where they
powder
painted
coating.
powder coating, all that stuff. And
I'm jealous of all the cool.
that's what our
stuff.
kids are learning on too.
Yeah,
They're
very,
they're
very
taking
cool stuff.
skills out there that they can immediately apply.
Yep. All right.
All right, I'm done.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Jack.
Stay tuned. George will be here in a minute. This week's update made possible in part by Gaviota's Catering, the taco truck. And we're back. And my guest today is Jourge. How do you say your last name?
Huizar.
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 Okay. And you are what is your title anyway?
Agriculture education instructor.
And now you're the FFA.
Advisor.
Okay.
So I guess
wasn't
they
sure
go-
what that was called.
They go hand in hand.
Okay.
FFA advisor, agriculture education instructor.
Okay. I was
So-
in the FFA. I grew up in Rhode Island, and our FFA was a little different. We did, I guess, cattle judging, dairy cattle,
Dairy,
and reforestation, because there's a lot of forest area.
Right,
there. So we
right.
plant thousands of little pine trees. We'd go out and put those in the ground, and so that was kind of fun. And so I was interested. I was excited when I moved here 40 years ago that you're really into like metal work and woodwork and
Yes.
and things that required on the farm.
You bet.
Kind of trade stuff.
Practical knowledge.
Yes, and you're from Winters, California.
I am.
Wow,
I
I've
grew up
actually been there.
to Winters.
Yes,
Really?
We were doing and my real job is we're a film production company, and we were doing some work for UC Davis.
Okay.
And we landed in Sacramento, drove right through Winters to
Yeah.
I don't know what the community is on the other side of you, But you're west of Sacramento.
West
right?
of Sacramento.
And it's not
Correct.
a really big town, is it?
No, small town. Well, it's gotten a lot bigger since, since I moved away, when I moved away for college. But we used to have one blinking light, kind of like Hennessey. A couple gas stations, small school. And since then, we've gotten a roundabout.
Ooh.
We've gotten several stoplights, new police stations, several
Progress.
subdivision, and so it's grown quite a bit. It's actually every time I go back to visit family, usually around the holidays, it's surprising how big it's gotten.
And it's very agricultural.
Very.
There's a
It's
lot
a
of
small
farms around.
farming with small farming community. A lot of people raise livestock. The big thing around our area, and especially in our county, is orchards. Walnut, almonds, pecans, you name it. Things
You're
like
not
that.
far enough north for wine.
Actually,
So
so
grapes.
before I moved to college, there was a family that started up their own winery, and since then there's two of them now in town, and a brewery. So it's gotten very popular, and those wineries are very good. I mean, then they do really well for themselves.
That's very
So,
cool. And you went to OSU. Is that how you got to Oklahoma?
I
Going to
did.
school?
So I ended up getting a scholarship to be on the livestock judging team at Redlands. I spent 2 years there, and then I was fortunate enough to be on another judging team scholarship at OSU. I double majored in ag ed and animal science, and after that I student taught in Hennessey. And
No kidding. I didn't realize
yeah,
that.
I student taught in Hennessey under Mr. Kennedy, and taught in Winoka is where I started teaching, and then I got the opportunity to come back to Hennessey when Mr. Kennedy retired from teaching. So
Okay.
kind of round.
It seems like I remember you being around, but I wasn't sure what
Yep.
what you were
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And then now you're like hardcore into metalwork and that kind of stuff.
And I'll be the first one to admit that wasn't necessarily my forte, my strong suit. I had to get good at it just because I had the demand with my students when I first got here. I had a bunch of good workers, and I still do, and that's what they enjoyed doing. That's what they wanted to do, so that's what I learned how to do.
They've
And
got this shop, the ag shop, I guess is what you call it, and it has got some top-notch metal fabricating, cutting. What do you call the flame? It used to be a flame
well,
cutter.
it's a we call it a plasma can because that's the brand name that we bought, but it's a CNC. In the trade name, it would be considered a CNC machine.
Wow, and it'll cut out anything in metal. So you put your logo in there and it'll cut it out. And then you also manufacture some things that you sell, like
We do.
some signs
We
and,
do.
and
So-
fire pits. I saw was a big deal.
Yes. So when I first got to Hennessey, we had a lot of outdated equipment, stuff that worked, but I spent several years trying to apply for grants, and I was very fortunate to have gotten several. And with that money, we've been able to just update, our equipment year to year to year. And now we've gotten to the point where, yes, we do use that plasma cam a lot to cut out certain things, but we've also kind of almost dug into another aspect of it, I guess you can say, because now we're cutting things out, but then putting them together, welding them together, fire pits, things like that. We've even gotten to the point where we've cut out, flanges for oil field companies in
Wow.
town. And so
That's really cool.
the kids really get that experience not only from a technology side because they have to sit down in front of the computer, design it first, then go out, run the machine, and then if we need to put something together, they got to weld it together, etc.
Remember, I think you were talking to the school board about the program, and you had a young man that wasn't great at math or something, and you were showing him how to program the CNC machine, and you told him that was, what was it? Was it algebra or geometry or?
Geometry, a lot of shapes, and
Yep.
I'll be the first one to admit I'm not very good at geometry. It just doesn't make sense to me. But when I have it in front of me and I'm dealing with shapes and centering shapes, trying to find a perfect square, etc., that I can also teach that to those students as well. So lot of geometry in it.
It's kind of like sneaking school into work stuff. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So tell me about your program. I know you do like an enormous amount of stuff. I mean, it's not just working with cattle and livestock and things.
So I think that our program as a whole kind of has a little stereotype behind it that, you know, it's all about farming, ranching, etc. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to really instill to my students is the fact that there is a lot more to our program than just the animal, the livestock or the farming side of it. We are involved in several different things throughout the year. Conferences, conventions, things like that. And so, you know, and then on top of that, the shop fabrication stuff of it. And so we will actually, we just wrapped up our fall stock show season and have had good success there. We've had some people place in the top end of their classes, reserve grand steer at county.
Highly competitive around here.
It is very, very competitive. And our numbers of showers in our program is small, but we're competitive and we try to do a good job with them. And the kids work hard at it. So
very cool. And then I mean, the FFA brings a whole nother dimension to all of this stuff. Where I was very impressed. I haven't been to an FFA meeting in ever, and I was at one of yours. Maybe it was a Christmas event or something, but it brought back the memories how formal everything is and how well trained these kids are, and the formalities to you know, even running a meeting. You know, it was pretty neat.
It is very formal in the way we do things, very kind of strict and organized in the way we do things. So yeah, it kind of throws those kids that aren't the most organized and are kind of just a little scatterbrained a little bit. It really does. It brings them in a little bit, and you know, they'll say something one way, and I said, "That's not good enough. You got to say it like this." Well, I'm saying the same thing. It doesn't matter. You got to say it a certain way.
Phrasing and
yes, exactly. So, so anyway, yeah.
And I think that's cool. You know, if you have a kid like you said that's just a little kind of wild, and you put them in a group that's like that, they kind of see that, oh, well, maybe we should be doing it this way.
It's amazing how quick I can get them to change it when I start offering extra credit points. So.
Incentive, yes. Very cool. And then now is the blue and gold thing, is that still a big deal?
It is. It's our main fundraiser that our chapter puts on throughout the whole year. We're only doing it one time a year, and we do have some extras that are in the freezer there in the shop that are available to purchase throughout the year.
Call them up.
But yeah,
still some sausage left.
We do have some sausage and some bacon left, but that's the biggest one. And then on top of that, we do the you know, our shop projects, things like that throughout the year.
Collect cans.
That one, that's a new one, and that one's been a very, very good fundraiser for us. And thank you to the Masonic Lodge and Bob Calvert at the Recycling Center here in town, because we've been able to raise some funds and have been able to improve some of our shop equipment specifically. And on top of that, you know, that money will go to pay for kids to go out and compete and travel, do whatever we need to do with that money. So
there's a big bin. Don't throw your aluminum cans away. There's a big bin just south of the high school, right in the parking lot of the ag building. Yeah, and throw your cans in there. That's like real money, and it does a lot of good.
It's been a good fundraiser for us, and we've been able to put that money to really good use. So I actually, before, you know, COVID came out, you know, Bob Calvert and Jack Painter came by and dropped us off a check for those cans that were sold, and I just went around and showed them in the shop of, here's what we're doing with the money, and what we were able to do with that money is buy a new powder coating gun, and so which wasn't cheap, but it is very, very efficient in its use, and it's more of the type of equipment that students can potentially use out in the field or out in the industry.
And that's always been my complaint, is that if you're going to teach a trade, use the trade equipment. You know, not kind of cheap made up stuff. They've got this amazing powder coating setup that's like big industry stuff. I mean, there's an oven you could almost put a car in. It's
Right.
so big, and
Yep.
so they can do big pieces and things like that. And for those of you that don't know what powder coating is, it's like an indestructible paint. It's like it's baked onto the metal, and it's really hard to scratch and that kind of thing.
And that was one of my last kind of big purchase equipment that I got with the grant a couple of years ago, and I honestly can say that I probably haven't touched a can of spray paint in 2 years.
Really?
Just because
so you use it that much?
We powder coat everything.
Wow, that's very cool.
And I think you just take a piece of metal that's spray painted and a piece of metal that's powder coated, you can just tell the difference.
oh God, well yeah, it
So,
just jumps out the finish
yes.
and how pretty it looks. and-
Absolutely,
Very
absolutely.
cool.
So that's been a fun piece of equipment, and the kids really took to it real well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So what else you got on your list?
well, we got our we just wrapped up our proficiency awards. Caden Mitchell was a national proficiency winner. He didn't win this year, unfortunately, but he was a national finalist, and there's only 4 that are chosen as national finalists in the whole country.
Wow, that's a big deal. Just getting that.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And he was also the area star in agribusiness this past summer. And then we had that group of seniors, Derek Fuchs, Elizabeth Pribble, Caden Mitchell, and Gage Zelnicek that received their state degrees this past spring. Ryan Pribble actually had pretty good success in a contest with the Hereford Association in their cattle. And what he did is he sent his own steers to a feedlot, and once those steers were fed out, they pretty much judged the carcass, and he was actually champion in reserve in that contest, and that's a nationwide contest.
Wow,
And so
from little old Hennessey, Oklahoma.
yeah, Ryan did good on that one, and I don't want to say because I think I'm wrong, but I think he had 3rd overall somewhere in there in that division. But either way, I mean, he kind of cleaned house in a way. I mean, he had a good run there.
That's very cool.
So yep, we just got done with our fall stock show season there at Tulsa. We were fortunate and very thankful that Tulsa was able to pull off the show. They didn't have the state fair, but they did have the show, and we went and showed there. And now we're just kind of getting geared up for the springtime, and the springtime's really the
That's when
busy
stuff
time of
starts
the
happening.
year.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to start hammering down on some proficiency applications here before long, so that the kids have plenty of time to work them over and make sure that they put together strong applications. Shop projects for Christmas are coming up. We've already got a list, and we've got those as soon as the kiddos pass their welding test.
Now, what are those? Are those things they're making as gifts, or can people place orders for something?
Orders from people that we're getting. So
Order your fire pit.
Yep.
Yeah, they can
The
put your
kiddo-
company logo on the fire pit.
Yep,
Yeah.
we can customize to everybody's needs, wants, etc. So as soon as the kiddos are done passing their welding tests, they'll get right after it, because I don't let them just weld on anything. I mean, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right.
No
So
need
they've
to
got
just burn and rod.
Exactly, they've got to pass their welding test before
Burn
they.
wire now, not rod.
Well,
Yeah.
both.
Oh, you're still
Both.
doing stick?
Oh
stick
yeah,
welding? Okay.
I start with stick.
Okay.
So I'm still a firm believer in stick welding. So.
Okay.
So anyway, and then kind of the springtime, we've got our calf fry coming up January 7th, and our labor auction. It's our calf fry and labor auction, and that is something that we actually, the Booster Club and I talked about, and we started it back up since I've been here, and it's been a very, very good fundraiser
That is
for
really
us.
well participated. Is that how you say that? It's very well attended. That's it. And you get to see everybody in their blue corduroy jackets and everything,
Yep.
and it's a neat event. And it's a lot of fun because they have
bet.
cool stuff they auction off. And,
Yes, we
and
do.
you can buy
we
a
auction-
kid,
for work.
mow your grass, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah, we put together, and Seaboard here in town donates quite a bit of meat to fill a freezer, and what we do is we raffle off that freezer full of meat.
Wow.
And so
okay, that's
and
a big
usually
deal.
there's not enough room in the freezer. You know, we have too much meat for the freezer space, but they still get to take it home, and so that's been a really good fundraiser for us. after the first year we did it, we actually had enough money for the kids to, pretty much all expense paid except for meals, but hotel rooms, etc., for the kids to go to National Convention. I think that was in 2016 or 17 that we went, and they were at Booster Club. We had the funds, and we thought this is what it's for. So, the kids got to take a pretty fun trip to National Convention in Indianapolis.
Very cool. Well, that's very, very cool.
Yeah, you bet. And then after that, just we got spring stock shows coming up, and they'll start. I say spring; they'll start in December on the hog shows, and then they'll go. Jackpots are kind of never ending in Oklahoma, but we will go on and show at county in February, and show at our district show in Enid, and then end out the show season at OYE in March, middle of March during spring break. So, and then after that. Here we go again. We start back up with contests, speech contests, meat judging contests, etc. So, a little bit about what we're doing.
It's a cool program because you could get kids to come out of their shell with a lot of the FFA kind of activities and learning a trade. I was the guy that they graduated because I was just getting too old. Go home, leave. And I think if the school I went to had programs like you're offering, like real trade work, that's really, really
I think
important.
the biggest thing that I like is just the practical knowledge that I can either reiterate to kids that may know how to do something but don't do it very often, or just simple practical knowledge. I remember it's been 2 or 3 years ago. I had a student teacher, Jackson Day, and he asked the 8th grade class, "What do you guys want to do? What do you guys want to learn about?" "Well, what about the greenhouse?" So he said, "Okay, what about greenhouse?" And the kids are like, "We want to build one." So we went over to Garrison Lumber, got some lumber, and we started putting it together. The kids loved it, and we were outside playing around, laughing, and Dr. Woods just so happened to walk up, and I thought, uh-oh, he's going to think we're having fun and not learning anything. And he said, he asked us, he goes, "What are you guys doing?" I said, kids just finished up the greenhouse. He goes, "Wow, this is really, really neat." The kids, using their, practical skills to build something. And so, that's a big thing that I like in my job is just, working with the kids on that kind of day-to-day stuff that they can use later on in life.
Very, very cool. Well, awesome. I'm so glad we got to hang out and learn a little bit more about what you guys do over there and the little building on the corner.
Yeah.
And so wrapping it up, make sure you let Vodder Mercantile know that you heard about it on the Hennessey School Update Show. We're not supposed to call it the Dr. Wood Show.
No.
And then, of course, make sure you get over to allaboutHennessey.com and sign up for your free weekly copy of the new official Hennessey newspaper, the Hennessey Post. It's free. Sign up, get it in your email box, and that's all we got. All right. Thanks, George.
Thank you for having me.
See you next week. This week's update was made possible in part by Hennessey Septic Tank, LLC.